back to Expert Talks. I'm Agathe Ducard. Today we're with Anton Gerassimov, who used to work in extreme conditions for a major oil and gas company and has specialized in a safety system called Control of Work. Anton, thank you so much for sharing your experience with us today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So you have a fascinating background. Can you tell us how you got involved in safety in the first place and what made you work hard to find solutions to reduce risks in general?
Sure. So I've been involved in heavy industry for a very, very long time, over 30 years now. I trained and specialized as an instrument technician and a mechanic. I worked with very large tracked vehicles for a while, and then I got into sort of asset engineering systems and maintenance systems. Um, in that work, I got sent to many different places, but one of them was an oil and gas facility in the desert in North Africa, and the engineering side of that operation really fascinated me, and I've been in oil and gas ever since. Now, some time ago, 10, 11 years ago, I got involved in risk management systems, and I've been involved in implementing and designing control work and risk management systems ever since.
Well, that makes sense. So it seems like you worked in the most remote locations in pretty risky environment. Can you tell us a bit more about this and maybe more experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So the kinds of places the extraction industry operates in are quite often very remote, in some very challenging, hazardous environments. I've worked in minus 40 temperatures up in Alaska on the Arctic Ocean to 40 plus degrees Celsius in the desert in the Middle East, to the jungles of Indonesia, and everything in between. Um, those kinds of environments are challenging in themselves to not only to people but also to plant. You have on top of that the kinds of people that are attracted to this kind of environment and business, who have their own risk tolerance. And so when you put all of that together, you have the potential for some very, very serious incidents. And although on the engineering side, we can have a lot of systems in place to prevent the equipment from failing, the human factors element really needs a very robust kind of management systems to make sure that, on the day, on the particular tasks, people do put their best foot forward and go home safely at the end of the day. That human factors piece is really what we're after. There is a lot of research out there, but one kind of headline piece of that is that over 80% of incidents in hazardous industries are caused by human error. And so these systems that I'm talking about are really there to try and eliminate that as much as possible.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And so, can you tell us more about the evolution you saw in control of work in particular, and how do you see it going?
So control of work has been around for a long time in various guises. So if you think of mining and the military in particular, they've been around for a long time. Both involve very hazardous activities involving a lot of people. And so there's been processes around to try and prevent conflicting activities being executed next to each other, and doing some risk management to an extent for a very long time. Now, it's really in oil and gas where the consequences of getting things wrong it can be very, very damaging both for people and the environment. They can be catastrophic. That's where really we can start talking about a systematic approach to these things. So unfortunately, these processes have all evolved as an answer to incidents. And so the evolution has been pretty organic. There are various processes from isolation management to permits to work. There's self-verification and audits and various other pieces of process. But it's only really since some very, very catastrophic incidents in the 70s and 80s that a regulation around Europe and in the US started stipulating to the oil and gas industry to have a systematic approach to this. And we can start seeing these processes kind of being weaved into a more of a coherent system, if you like. Now, where I can see it going is that since we have been able to apply electronic systems to this and really bring some efficiency and some very hard business rules that stop some very obvious things from happening, we've seen the industry really have a qualitative jump, if you like, in managing risk. And ironically, since the oil and gas industry has been so kind of instrumental in developing these systems that really talk about operational risk management, where you take a collection, kind of an ecosystem of processes that give you a picture of overall risk on the facility. That the other hazardous industries, like mining, like the military, like other sort of industrial processes, pharma and so on, where we have machinery, have started taking notice and also implementing these systems. So it's interesting. It's kind of gone full circle in a way. And what I can see is that oil and gas has been very good at kind of learning lessons from across its own sort of industry. But what would be fantastic is that really the collection of industries that employs these processes has a good overall view on the contributing factors to incidents like human error and develop a very systematic approach to mitigating that.
Well, that's great. Anton, thank you so much for sharing your experience. And thank you all for watching Expert Talks. Stay tuned for more insights on industry topics.